Dietrich Bonhoeffer says Christianity without discipleship is always Christianity without Christ. It remains an abstract idea, a myth, which has a place for the fatherhood of God, but omits Christ as the living Son. I guess you could sum it up this way. If you want the life of Jesus, you have to take on the lifestyle of Jesus. So I want to offer you a map of discipleship, because if you're on a journey, it can be helpful to stop and to see where you've come from and to remember where you're going. Only map isn't really the right term, because we know that the spiritual life is not a linear track. It's not a start from one place and go to another. It's more like a cycle that we go through stage after stage after stage, repeating ourselves as we are formed into his image. So I want to give you a cycle of spiritual maturity. I'm borrowing this from Pete Greig, who summarizes it into 3 stages: see, sacrifice, celebrate. You see, see is all about the wonders of God. It's often what we call revelation. Something new is discovered and seen about God and his invitation to us. It's come, follow me. He's chosen me. He's calling me. It's that moment. And then there's sacrifice. Every invitation from God then requires us to lay something down. There's always a stripping off before there's a putting on. It's Jesus saying, you can bring all of this with you, you can't bring all of this with you. When I said drop your nets, I meant drop your nets. But look where I'm taking you. I love the words of Eugene Peterson, who says, following Jesus doesn't get us where we want to go. It gets us where Jesus goes. So discipleship to Jesus did not make Peter and the others more popular. It did not get them in on the inner circles of exclusive company that following another rabbi would have gotten them in on. It actually brought them into proximity with the marginalized, with those who were rejected from the temple, with those who were thought to be unclean and furthest from God. It cost them, and it cost them greatly socially. And yet it was in that exact place where they experienced the presence of God. It was there that they saw his power poured out and they encountered his person. They saw God at work in the very places and among the very people they had been told to avoid. So see, sacrifice, and then we celebrate. On the other side of sacrifice always comes blessing. Once we have seen something about God worth risking coming empty-handed to God, he then pours blessing out to us. So discipleship comes at a cost. Jesus was upfront about that part, and that part has never changed, but neither has the return. Dallas Willard calls any sacrifice on the way of discipleship to Jesus the bargain of our lives. So I show you this just to ask, can you find yourself in that cycle somewhere? Can you name the stage that you're in right now? Because when you can, it permits you to live freely into that stage. Or maybe to recognize that I'm moving from one of these stages to the next one, and so I can freely let go of this that I don't need to hold on to, so I can take hold of where God's inviting me next. Because so often we get stuck somewhere in this cycle and our discipleship stalls. Like some of us never see even for the first time, either because we've never heard the good news or because our hearts are hard toward it. But many people have had their eyes opened but are unwilling to sacrifice. Just won't drop their nets. They catch a vision of Jesus, but then they try to pull their already full life into that, and it never works. Others of us romanticize the hardship, and so we never enter into the celebration. Like somewhere along the way, we got the idea that God was into carrying a cross, but not into resurrection life. That he's all for fasting, but he's suspicious of feasting. That he's for ashes, but not beauty. And those people are often the ones that you respect, but and live very devoutly, but it's in an unattractive way. You know, you respect them, but you also don't want to become like them. But the most common place that so many of us get stuck is we get to celebration and we try to cling to it and don't move into the next revelation of who God is. We assume that when the celebration is going, when it's not constant, that something has gone wrong. And so we scramble to try to get back to the stage that we're being invited beyond. When the truth is, there's more celebration coming. But it's on the other side of a new revelation about who he is, seeing again, and a new sacrifice that he's calling you into. It's like the party's over and you're inside flipping the lights on, just refusing to leave. And God's saying there's another party that awaits you. But you've got to follow me there. So we meet Jesus standing up on our own 2 feet, but we grow up on our knees when we know Jesus is Lord.